Okay. Good morning to one and all. Today we'll see some of the calculations are related to the assessment of kidney functions. As you are aware, kidney located retroperitoneally and is doing a wonderful job. A lot of functions which are attributed to the kidney. We all know commonly it excretes the waste products. That's all we know. But in addition to that, it does so many other functions. Namely, it maintains the plasma or blood volume and its ionic composition, electrolyte composition, as well as the pH and arterial pressure. And it also helps in the production of erythropoietin, which is responsible for the erythropoiesis, as well as it's the site where the formation of 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol, or otherwise called calcitriol, the functional form of vitamin D3, which is also synthesized, or rather the hydroxylation at one position occurs in the kidney. It also site of gluconeogenesis. That means it does so many other wonderful jobs in addition to the excretion of waste products. So normally we try to assess the renal functions by means of various parameters, or by doing a battery of tests. Normally we collect the urine and we try to see the volume, color, odor, pH, specific gravity, and the contents like presence or absence of albumin or presence of blood, hemoglobin, and so on, as well as sometimes abnormal proteins or microalbuminuria or benzoyl proteins, etc. We do a lot of tests by collecting the urine in order to assess the kidney function. Sometimes we also collect the blood sample to assess the kidney functions, especially we estimate the serum, urea, uric acid, creatinine, and so on and so forth. We also do certain other tests in order to identify the any abnormal renal functions, like maybe in terms of acidification or dilution or concentration or secretion. Sometimes we also do certain special tests such as maybe a plain X-ray or maybe ultrasound or maybe IVP, that is intravenous pyelography, or sometimes we do CT, that is computerized tomography. We also do sometimes biopsy depending upon the need. By doing all this battery of tests, we try to assess the kidney functions. So in this, we do a battery of tests which are based on a concept called clearance. Kidney does all this marvelous job, or most of the jobs, whatever we have mentioned about the functions, by means of the nephrons. They are the structural functional units. In each kidney, we have about 0.8 to 1 million such nephrons. They do all these functions. And kidney also does all these functions based on 3 physical processes. What are they? First and foremost is the filtration, or rather ultrafiltration. So, you know, in the nephron, we have a tuft of capillaries called glomeruli, where you increase hydrostatic pressure, a part of plasma getting filtered, we call it the GFR. And this is one process, the filtration. Next, the filtrate, when it passes through various segments of the nephron, it undergoes 2 more processes. One is the reabsorption, other is called secretion. That means nephrons does 3 major functions. One is the filtration, next is the reabsorption, and the last is the secretion. By doing these 3 functions, it does all the other things like maintenance of volume, pH, ionic composition, and osmolality, etc. All these things are maintained by these 3 basic functions. So now today we are going to assess how the kidney handles different substances, and by analyzing this, how we can assess the kidney functions. That's what we are going to see. Most of the clinical problems which are related to clearance. What do you understand by clearance? By definition, clearance means of clearance of any substance for that matter, a renal clearance of particular substance is nothing but the volume of plasma that is completely cleared of a substance per unit time, usually per minute. Say, to illustrate this, say for example, we have about 3.5 liters of plasma which is being processed through the kidneys. Now imagine for a matter, just for understanding, which is having 3,500 milligram of a particular substance X. And per minute, this particular substance X is excreted, say 100 milligram out of 3,500 milligram, which is there in 3,500 ml of plasma, 100 milligram is excreted per minute. Meaning, in order to excrete this 100 milligram, 100 ml of plasma must be or should be divided of this particular substance. So in this case, the clearance becomes 100 ml per minute. So though it is a hypothetical thing, it doesn't only remove this particular substance only from 100 ml. It takes this 100 milligram from all of 3,500 ml only. Just it's an arbitrary understanding that clearance is always expressed as volume of plasma that is completely cleared off a particular substance per minute. So with this understanding, let's go into the calculations which are there for today's learning. First and foremost, the problem number 1, calculate the filtration pressure in the capillaries using the following data. Capillary hydrostatic pressure is equal to 30 millimeters of mercury. Plasma colloidal osmotic pressure or oncotic pressure is equal to 25 mm of mercury. Tissue hydrostatic pressure is equal to 22 mm of mercury. Tissue colloidal oncotic pressure is equal to 2 mm of mercury. So these are the various forces which are otherwise called as Starling's forces, which govern the transcapillary exchange of fluid between the vascular compartment and the surrounding interstitium. Whenever we say blood is flowing through the tissues, the blood supply is there in order to supply the essential nutrients as well as respiratory gases, and also take the metabolites from that particular point as well as carbon dioxide. That is the purpose of circulation to any particular organ. So all the nutrients and other maybe a hormone or maybe enzyme, they all reach a particular site of metabolism by means of exudation or filtration from the blood capillaries. In order to make this, you have a capillary which is normally will have two ends. One is the arteriolar end that is nearer to the artery, other is the venular end which is nearer to the vein. At the arteriolar end, normally the hydrostatic pressure will be more, which normally favors the filtration of fluid from the vascular compartment to the surrounding interstitium. On the other hand, by this process, more and more fluid is pushed, it reaches the surrounding interstitium. By the time the plasma or the blood reaches the venular end, the hydrostatic pressure becomes less, and the plasma which are there in the capillary, the level become more. So the oncotic pressure becomes more. So the reverse of this process takes place, that is the reabsorption will take place. So on one end, at the other end, more and more fluid will leak the vascular compartment into the surrounding interstitium. But at the venular end, whatever is being leaked, most of the fluid will come back to the blood by means of reabsorptive force. So now at the capillaries, we have two types of force. One is a force or forces which favor filtration, and some force which oppose filtration. So the mathematical summation between these two, or the difference between these two, decide whether there is a filtration occurs or reabsorption occurs. So normally, whatever fluid which is filtered at the arterial end, more than 95%, 93% will be reabsorbed at the venular end, so that doesn't allow the accumulation of fluid within the tissue. If it occurs, then it leads to edema. This is the basis for formation of leak also. So not all fluid which is leaked through the arterial end will be reabsorbed. About 1% remains in the tissue. Even this 1% on a longer term basis, if it remains in the tissue, which leads to edema, as I said. So in order to prevent that, the extra fluid which is retained in the tissue, they are collected by another type of channels called lymphs, and through the lymphatic channels, again, once again, there is the circulation. This is what happens. So now, when you look at the capillaries, these are having two ends where there are certain forces which are acting, which will decide filtration and reabsorption. These forces are called Starling's forces, where they can be grouped as forces favoring filtration and forces opposing filtration. Suppose take in this case, hydrostatic pressure is the pressure with which water molecule escape from one compartment to the other. Suppose if it is in the capillary, the water molecule try to escape from the capillary to the surrounding interstitium. Suppose if it is there in the surrounding interstitium, the pressure is more, they try to enter into the capillary. So hydrostatic pressure is the one with which water molecule try to escape from one compartment to the other. On the other hand, the colloidal osmotic pressure, allostatic pressure, which is normally exerted by the plasma proteins, more so by the albumin and other proteins. So they try to attract water. So they normally, whenever they are there, they try to attract water. So they oppose filtration. So in this case, in order to calculate the filtration pressure, we need to calculate the formula to calculate this filtration pressure is equal to forces favoring filtration minus forces opposing filtration. So in this case, the capillary hydrostatic pressure as well as the colloidal osmotic pressure in the tissue, both will favor filtration. But on the other hand, the plasma colloidal allostatic pressure and tissue hydrostatic pressure, they try to oppose the filtration. So now, as the figures are given, using this logic, try to calculate the filtration pressure. So take a minute, quickly try to calculate. We'll see the solution also quickly. Hope you might have calculated. So now you see the solution also. The filtration pressure is equal to forces favoring filtration minus forces opposing filtration. So it is nothing but the capillary hydrostatic pressure and tissue colloidal osmotic pressure both will favor filtration, but whereas capillary colloidal osmotic pressure and tissue hydrostatic pressure both will oppose. So putting the figures, it will be 30 plus 2 minus 25 plus 2. So it is 32 minus 27 is equal to 5 mm of mercury. This is the filtration pressure. So as it is in positive or there is no negative value, so this 5 mm of mercury will favor filtration. It will favor filtration. Suppose if it is minus value, that means it will favor reabsorption. Instead of filtering, it will favor the reabsorption. So I hope you have understood. Normally, this pressure in capillaries elsewhere in the system will be around 2 mm of mercury. It's not 5 mm. So for mathematical calculation, we have given a round figure. But normally in tissues, it will be around 2 mm of mercury. So this is what happens. This is what the pressure which is there in the capillaries elsewhere in the system, or in other words, in systemic capillaries. Now let us see how much is this particular pressure in the glomerular capillaries, which are specialized organs in order to form urine, or rather they are forming enormous volume of filtrate per day. So at the rate of about 125 ml per minute, we call GFR, or about 180 liters per day. In a day, it filters about 180 liters. In order to filter such a huge volume, the pressures which are acting should be more. That's what we are going to see in the next problem. Calculate the effective filtration pressure from the given data. Here, the glomerular hydrostatic pressure is equal to 60 mm of mercury. Plasma colloidal osmotic pressure is equal to 25 mm of mercury. And hydrostatic pressure in the Bowman's capsule is equal to 15 mm of mercury. Using the same formula, calculate the effective filtration pressure. So in this case, as in the Bauman's capsule, when the filtrate comes, normally it is essentially protein free. It's a protein free filtrate. So it doesn't offer any colloidal osmotic pressure. So that's the reason the figures are not given. Suppose if at all you want to take, you can take Bauman's capsular. COP will be 0 mm of mercury. So using the same analogy, now try to calculate the filtration pressure quickly. Yes, here also the same filtration pressure or effective filtration pressure is equal to forces favoring filtration minus forces opposing filtration. So in this case, it is granular hydrostatic pressure minus plasma colloidal osmotic pressure plus Bauman's capsular hydrostatic pressure. Replacing with the value, it is 60 mm of mercury minus 25 plus 15 mm. So it becomes 20 mm of mercury. So 20 mm mercury is the, in this case, in this particular problem, is the effective filtration pressure. So this, since the pressure is higher at the kidney, so they are capable of filtering more volume of filtrate per day. That is about 180 liters per day. Of course, in this case, the value is becoming 20 mm of mercury, but normally it will be around 10 mm of mercury. The granular hydrostatic pressure will be around 60, the same value, but whereas the Bauman's capsular hydrostatic pressure will be around 18, and the plasma colloidal osmotic pressure will be it will be around 32 or so. So put together it will become 60 minus 50, almost 10 mm of mercury will be the effective filtration pressure in the human kidneys. As it is more than the normal systemic capillary, that's why kidneys are capable of filtering more volume of filtrate. Understood? So because as the filtration pressure is high in kidney, that is designed so, that's why they are capable of filtering huge volume of plasma as filtrate. But elsewhere, as I said, it's about 2 mm of mercury only, 1 to 2 mm only. So let us see the other problems. Calculate the GFR from the given data. Now, before we get into this particular calculation, let us see what happens. So normally, kidneys receive blood, which is normally about 1100 to 1200 ml per minute, which accounts for about 20 to 22% of cardiac output. You look at the kidney size, they are hardly, both kidney to put together 300 gram only. 300 gram of kidney receives about 1100 to 1200 ml of blood per minute. That means the blood supply to the kidneys are far more than its metabolic needs. Then why kidney receive so much of blood? Meaning it needs to filter a huge quantity. That means it is essentially designed to sample the blood or plasma. So as and when there is a change in the system, it will try to correct. Whenever you add more water, it will try to eliminate more water. When the water deficiency, then it will try to conserve water. Similarly, it also, independent of one another, it will try to control the various solutes or electrolytes, their concentration, etc. It is very precisely maintained, pH, volume, everything is maintained. Not to maintain all these parameters, kidney needs to receive a very high blood supply, number one. So of the blood which is received, which is given to the kidney, approximately 20% of the plasma which will be filtered as filtrate. So that we call it the glomerular filtration rate, or the rate at which plasma is being filtered at glomeruli of both the kidneys per minute. GFR is nothing but the rate at which plasma is being filtered at glomeruli of both the kidneys per minute. Normally is about 125 milligram, sorry, 125 ml per minute, 125 ml per minute, or 180 liters per day. Now, the various segments of nephron. One is the glomerular area where there is a filtration occurs. As later pass through the various parts of the nephron, the tubules, where two more processes takes place, as we have seen. One is the reabsorption, other is the secretion. Now, kidney handles various substances differently. There are certain substances, they will be only simply filtered, they will be neither reabsorbed nor secreted. In such case, whatever is being filtered, that quantity will be excreted. So for those substances, if we know the excrete rate, we can know the filtration rate, because such substances are neither reabsorbed nor secreted. Understood? So there are certain, there are no ideal marker available in the body where it is only purely filtered, which is not either secreted or reabsorbed. Such markers are not available in the body. So we try to introduce certain markers or metabolites from outside. We try to introduce the a known quantity of such markers, and after giving those particular markers or marker substances, we try to calculate the concentration of those substances in the plasma as well as in the urine. If we know the urinary flow rate, from this data, normally we can calculate the GFR. So to calculate GFR, we should use such a substance which is purely filtered, neither reabsorbed nor secreted. So one such marker which is available outside or exogenously, which can be given, is the inulin. It is not insulin, it is a inulin. Inulin is a low molecular weight carbohydrate or polysaccharide. It is normally extracted from the certain plant roots. It's a harmless chemical which can be introduced into the body through intravenous injections. Now, this inulin is having a property. It's a inert, doesn't react with any substance in the body, doesn't interfere with the distribution of other ions and molecules. It is non-toxic, and it can be estimated easily either from the blood or from the urine. So these are the criteria. So the inulin fulfills all these criteria. That's why we select inulin. Is a low molecular weight polysaccharide derived from plant extract, root extract. So this particular substance meets the criteria of GFR estimation. This is purely only filtered, neither reabsorbed nor secreted. So whenever we calculate the clearance value or exit rate for the inulin, which is nothing but the GFR, since the substance is only filtered. So exit rate will be equal to filtration rate. So having this logic, now we can calculate GFR by using a formula. Clearance is equal to the UV by P. C is the clearance is equal to UV by P. U is the urinary concentration of a particular substance, and V is the flow rate, and P is the plasma concentration of that particular substance. In this case, it is inulin. Using this formula, try to calculate the GFR. So for most of the other parameters like renal plasma flow also, again calculated using the same formula, but wherein we need to use certain other substance which fulfills that particular criteria. When we use inulin, which is purely used for GFR, because it is purely filtered. So we try to calculate. Now let us see the solution also in a minute. Yes, clearance is equal to, as I said, UV by P. So putting the values, So this 35 divided by 0.25. This mg per ml and mg per ml both will cancel each other. So it becomes 140. The flow rate in this case about 0.9 ml per minute. So it comes to be 126 ml per minute, which is more or less the normal GFR value. Normal GFR is about 125 ml per minute. So we need to use substances such as inulin only. So because they are only purely filtered, neither reabsorbed nor secreted. So clearance value of this particular substance is equal to the GFR. So now let us see the other calculations. So in this case, calculate the creatinine clearance from the given data. So now here we need to understand certain physiological principles. Inulin is an exogenous chemical we need to inject in order to calculate the GFR. So sometimes a reasonably good estimate of GFR can be estimated by using the creatinine clearance also. Creatinine is nothing but a metabolite. It is a product of muscle metabolism, so which is normally produced at a standard rate. So and under steady state, the amount of creatinine produced is equal to amount of creatinine excreted. So normally the plasma or serum creatinine level remains within a normal range. Normally it ranges between 0.7 to 1.2 milligram per deciliter. That is a normal value. So instead of this particular creatinine, similar to inulin, it is also filtered and it is little bit even secreted also. So it doesn't fulfill a criteria as good as inulin. So it is maximally filtered and little bit is secreted also in addition to the filtration. So normally when you calculate the GFR using creatinine clearance, the values are slightly higher than using the inulin. Number one. Number two, we use the method to calculate the creatinine content in the urine or plasma. Even those methods, they have certain inherent errors. They try to overestimate by another 10% or so. So, number one, the normal value of creatinine clearance itself is a bit higher because of little bit secretions, about 10%. And even the estimate which we make normally in plasma and creatinine and the urine, those methods also have standard inherent errors. They try to little bit overestimate. So in general, they try these two errors. They try to cancel each other. So even by using creatinine clearance, we can calculate the GFR, which also gives a more or less a good estimate of GFR. So now advantage of this creatinine clearance is that we need not inject any chemical from outside. So which is normally is a metabolite found in our body. Simply we calculate the creatinine content in plasma and urine and we calculate the urinary flow rate. From these two data, we can easily calculate the GFR. So without injecting any markers such as inulin. So in routine practice, creatinine clearance is used more often than inulin clearance. So which is more used. So having this background, you know the formula. Now try to calculate the GFR or creatinine clearance using the data given. So putting the same formula, C is equal to UV by P. So the value comes to be around 130 ml per minute. The normal creatinine clearance value will be around 140 ml per minute. It's slightly higher than the value we obtain by using inulin. So this is easy formula, the same formula UV by P, and putting the values, so you'll get 130 ml per minute. Now next, calculate the urea clearance from the given data. So urea is also another metabolite which is found in our body, which also can be used as a marker, and whose clearance also gives a rough estimate of GFR. When you look at the way your kidney handles the urea. Urea is again filtered, and when you look at the distal tubules, especially the medullary area, the collecting ducts, etc., there is a reabsorption of urea, and again enters into the loop of Henle. There is a urea cycle that goes on there. So the urea is a substance which is filtered as well as reabsorbed. Filtered and reabsorbed. So when you calculate the urea clearance value, that will be slightly lower than the normal GFR, because some amount of urea which is filtered, they are being reabsorbed. It undergoes a urea cycle. So that is the reason when we use urea clearance, the value you get may not be the value what we obtain from the inulin. So nevertheless, you can get a rough estimate by using urea clearance also. When you use creatinine clearance or urea clearance, we need not inject any exogenous chemicals. So simply by using our own metabolites, we can easily have a rough estimate of GFR by using the clearance formula. But here one should understand the urea clearance value depends on the urinary flow rate. Urinary flow rate. Suppose here also the formula for clearance is equal to C is equal to UV by P, and this formula holds good so long the urinary flow rate is more than 2 ml per minute. Whenever it is less than 2 ml per minute, then we need to calculate something called standard urea clearance. Standard urea clearance. And what is the standard urea clearance? Standard urea clearance is nothing but C is equal to U into square root of V. Square root of V divided by P. So this formula is used to calculate the standard urea clearance, which is normally done whenever the flow rate is less. So of course, in this case, we are only calculating the normal urea clearance. In this case, it is C is equal to U by P. So see the values here. So U by P. So putting these values, so you get about 75 ml per minute. I hope you follow all the steps. So as I said, normally the clearance value of urea is slightly lower than the value you get by inulin. For normal value of urea clearance about 75 ml. If we use standard urea clearance, it will be around 54 ml per minute, which is much lower than the normal urea clearance. The standard urea clearance wherein the flow rate will have square root of V. So when we use square root, it becomes normally less value, which is about 54 ml per minute. So in clinical practice, normally of all the three, the creatinine clearance is widely used in order to estimate the filtration function of kidney or to assess the GFR. So you understood how various markers can be used to analyze or to assess the filtration function. Filtration function. But similarly, we can use other markers so to calculate the other functions of the kidney. That we are going to see the next problem. How to calculate the renal blood flow from the given data. Now, before we get into the calculation, let us see how our kidney handles different substances. In this case, there is one substance which is inulin, which is purely filtered, neither reabsorbed nor secreted. Number one. When we use the other two markers like creatinine, which is filtered and little bit secreted, when you use urea, which is filtered as well as reabsorbed. So in those substances when we use, normally they are used to calculate the GFR. And if we use a marker or substance which is filtered as well as completely secreted, so you know, in our kidney we have two capillary network. One capillary network, there is the glomeruli or top of capillaries where filtration occurs. Filtration of 20% of plasma which is flowing through it will be filtered as GFR, and next time it comes as a renal artery and goes as a renal vein. Renal vein surrounding the PCT, proximal collective tubule, it forms another capillary network called the peritubular capillary, from where once again some of the substances are there in the filtrate in the plasma, they can be actively secreted into the filtrate. Some of the constituents of the filtrate may be reabsorbed. Sometimes some of the constituents which are there in the plasma will be, in addition to the filtration, they can be actively secreted into the lumen of the nephron by active secretory process. Suppose if you select a marker or a substance which is filtered, normally filtered load will be approximately 20% of the total plasma load, as leaves as a renal vein when it forms peritubular capillary, from where the same substance which is actively completely secreted into the filtrate. Then when you use such a marker, the urinary excrete rate of those substances will be equivalent to renal plasma flow. So meaning, suppose when we get blood supply as a renal artery, when it leaves as a renal vein, so by flowing through the kidney, partly by filtration and mostly by secretion, if the blood loses all the content of that particular substance, in that case, the excrete rate will be equivalent to the renal blood flow, or to be more precise, renal plasma flow. So because everything there in the plasma is being excreted both by two processes. One is the filtration, next is the secretion. So by the time the plasma leaves the kidney, it is devoid of that particular substance. So when you use such a marker, then their clearance rate is equal to renal plasma flow. So one such substance is used is the diodrast. The other substance being the para-aminohydrochloric acid. Diodrast and para-aminohydrochloric acid, these two substances are used in order to calculate the renal plasma flow. Again, the formula is the same. C is equal to UV by P, but we have to use the marker, because for GFR we use normally urine or creatinine. To calculate renal plasma flow, we use diodrast because this particular substance is filtered as well as completely secreted. Now, whether you use diodrast or the para-aminohydrochloric acid, of course, though I said it is filtered as well as secreted, not 100%. So, approximately about 90% of these substances are being excreted both by filtration and secretory process. So by the time when it leaves as a renal vein, still about 10% of those substances will be there, not removed 100%. So, but nevertheless, they give an overall estimate of renal plasma flow. Still, if you want to calculate the exact value, I'll tell you there is a formula that we see when we calculate for the para-aminohydrochloric acid, which is there the next problem. So, for theoretical purpose, you try to think diodrast substance which is handled by kidney the following way. Number one, when the diodrast is there in the plasma, 20% of it is being filtered as a GFR along with the GFR, and by the time it goes to the peritubular capillary where there are active secretors, they try to secrete all the diodrast into the lumen of the renal tubules, thereby everything is completely cleared. So so that when you calculate the exit rate, which is equivalent to the renal plasma flow. So in this case, we have diatrast level in urine as well as plasma, and we have urinary flow rate. By these values, we calculate the renal plasma flow. And when we know the hematocrit, using these two values, we can derive at the renal blood flow. Now we try to calculate the renal plasma flow, RPF. This is nothing but again, C is equal to U by P. We try to calculate. Yes, putting the values. In this case, the clearance value, instead of giving GFR as in the case of inulin, it is as the indicator is a diatrast, it gives renal plasma flow, which comes to be 700 ml per minute. So 700 ml of plasma which is flowing through the kidney per minute. Now, when we know hematocrit is about 43%, that means the blood is about 100%, of which hematocrit, that is the volume of packed cells, they constitute about 43%, meaning 57% is plasma. If 57% of plasma is about 700 ml, how much will be the total blood volume? That's what we calculate renal blood flow, or the renal blood volume that will flow per minute. The formula to calculate the renal blood flow is equal to renal plasma volume multiplied by 1 minus hematocrit, or to be more precise, plasma volume into 1 divided by 1 minus hematocrit. So plasma volume multiplied by 1 will become the same. So that's why we have made the formula simple. Plasma volume divided by 1 minus hematocrit. So in this case, hematocrit is about 43%. So 1 minus 43 by 100. 43 by 100 becomes 0.43. So 1 minus 0.43 becomes 0.57. So you divide the value of 700 ml per minute divided by 0.57. It gives a value of 1228 ml per minute. This is the renal blood flow. So by using a marker such as diatrast or para-aminohippuric acid, as these markers are, you can say, completely cleared by means of filtration secretion, their clearance value is equal to renal plasma flow. Once we know the renal plasma volume as well as the hematocrit, by using the formula renal plasma flow or volume divided by 1 minus hematocrit will give you the renal blood flow. So this is the formula by which you can easily calculate and we can score. So what is the normal renal blood flow? It's about 1100 to 1200 ml. In other words, 22% of total cardiac output. That signifies the importance of kidney and the enhanced blood flow to it. Now, as I said, in addition to diatrast, we can also use para-aminohippuric acid as a marker in order to calculate the renal plasma flow. Again, only the values are changed, only the marker is changed, but values are same. But I mean to say, whether you use diatrast or para-aminohippuric acid, both can be used to calculate renal plasma flow. So values are given, and in this case also hematocrit is about 43. So we can, using the same formula, try to calculate the both RPF, that is the renal plasma flow, as well as the renal blood flow. So here, as I said, I want to say something. So whether we use diatrast or more so with para-aminohippuric acid, they are not completely cleared. So they are cleared to the tune of about 90%. So in order to calculate the effective renal plasma flow, or you can say the correct plasma flow, we can get the value by using a formula, is the clearance of either para-aminobutyric acid or diadras divided by the extraction ratio. So we need to use one more additional formula. What is that? That is the clearance value divided by the extraction ratio. Extraction ratio is nothing but the arterial pH level minus venous pH level divided by arterial pH level. So normally, suppose artery contains certain value and veins contain certain value, and the minus of these two divided by arterial. As I said, it's about 90% being cleared. So this value, exact ratio, normally gives a value about 0.9. So whatever the clearance value you get, or otherwise renal plasma flow you get divided by 0.9 gives you the effective renal plasma flow. Of course, in this case, we are not going to do in this case, but somebody asked the examination how to calculate the effective plasma flow. What is the flaw? What is the drawback by using pH? Means we need to calculate the extraction ratio in order to get the correct plasma flow. That is, the extraction ratio is nothing but the arterial pH level minus venous pH level divided by arterial pH. The normal values are about 0.9. So let us see this solution. So the values are same, as only the marker is changed. Plasma flow or the plasma volume is about 700 ml per minute. Hematocrit 43%, putting the values. So in this case also, renal blood flow will be 1228 ml per minute. This is the value. So additionally, sometimes we need to know the extraction ratio also in order to correctly calculate the effective plasma flow, wherein this clearance value of 700 ml should be divided by 0.9. The next problem is to calculate the filtration fraction by the given data. Filtration fraction means the fraction of plasma which is being filtered. How much is being filtered? Suppose what is that? The total plasma flow. Suppose for example, we take some X value, and what is being filtered is about the fraction of it, or it's a part of it. So in order to calculate the filtration fraction, the normally used formula is equal to GFR by renal plasma flow. GFR by renal plasma flow. So you know GFR can be calculated by using inulin. That is, inulin clearance value is nothing but GFR. When you use pH clearance, that value gives about the renal plasma flow. In addition to pH, you can also use diadras clearance. So filtration fraction is equal to GFR divided by RPF. So putting this value, you can calculate the filtration fraction. Filtration fraction is equal to GFR by RPF, putting those values. GFR is the inulin clearance value, RPF is the pH clearance value. So it goes about 0.2. That means 0.2 is the filtration fraction. In other words, per 100 ml, how much will be? Is about 20% of the total plasma flow. 20% is the fraction. 20% is being filtered at the glomeruli as GFR. That's what the value gives. So normal value is also about 0.2, or in other words 20%. I hope you understood all these calculations and the rationale behind calculation of these things. Sometimes the same clearance formula can be applied to calculate or to quantify to assess the concentration and dilution property of kidneys, for which we use what we call osmolar clearance. Osmolar clearance meaning in this case C instead of simple C, it will be COSM. C osmolar is equal to UOSM, urinary osmolarity into flow rate divided by plasma osmolarity. Suppose we calculate, that will give you the osmolar clearance value, and by using osmolar clearance as well as flow rate, we can also calculate what we call free water clearance. Free water clearance means clearance C H2O minus V. We use the free water clearance. Whenever the urinary osmolarity increases than the plasma osmolarity, means instead of excreting water, the process we are adding water to the body. That means we are excreting more solutes than the water by means of urine. Suppose if the plasma osmolarity is higher than the urine osmolarity, in other words, urine osmolarity is low, in this case, we try to excrete more free water, that means more watery urine than the plasma. That is called as, by using these formulas, that is osmolar clearance and free water clearance, we can quantify or we can assess whether are we adding more water to the system or we are excreting more water urine. Those things can be, or in other words, dilution and concentration efficiency of kidney also can be studied by using the same clearance methods, but for which we would use osmolar clearance and free water clearance. Try to go through this chapter in any book. Try to make this concept clear and try to know these formulas and which marker is used for which value. By knowing this, simply by applying this formula, C is equal to U by D, we can get the values and we can get good marks. Only thing we need to answer some of the relevant questions about the marker, etc. I hope you understood. And if you have any queries, you can get back to me to my personal number. And with this, I call it a day. Have a nice day. Bye.